Welcome to the Stoic Golden Tribe, where enduring wisdom meets the strength of presence, and where we uncover the truths modern society refuses to teach men. Let's start with a truth most won't tell you. The moment you start taking things personal is the moment you start rising, not in bitterness, not in insecurity, but in responsibility, in fire, in purpose. You were meant to feel it, the betrayal, the failure, the silence. And if you numb it instead of owning it, if you call it nothing when it's really everything, you stay weak. Because every man who ever rose above the world took it personal first. This is not about emotional fragility. This is about emotional fire. It's what separates the man who accepts average from the man who walks into destiny. In this video, we're diving deep into why you must take things personal, the right way. With historical power, with relationship wisdom, with unshakable emotional intelligence, like this video, share it with a man who needs to hear this, subscribe for more, and drop a comment below when something hits you. Your story matters here. Chapter 1. The Fire That Built Kingdoms. A man with nothing to prove often never proves anything, but a man who took offense, betrayal, or rejection personally and turned it into purpose becomes dangerous in the best way. Let's start with one of the greatest kings in history, Alexander the Great. At just 13 years old, his father, King Philip of Macedon, called him weak, a boy who would never command men. He said it in front of his generals. Alexander didn't just hear it. He took it personal. And instead of collapsing, he forged a new identity. By 20, he took the throne. By 30, he had conquered the known world because one moment burned into his soul. Modern men are told not to feel too deeply, not to take things too hard. But if Alexander had followed that advice, he would have stayed a prince with potential, not a king with history. It's not about living offended, it's about living aware. You saw the betrayal, you felt the disrespect, now build with it. But when love demands growth, while John Adams was away forging a new nation, he and his wife Abigail wrote over 1,000 letters. In one of them, Abigail warned him, "Do not forget the women, John. Remember, all men would be tyrants if they could." John took it personal, in the best way. He didn't brush it off. He changed the way he thought about liberty, justice, and even marriage. Powerful relationships don't happen when people ignore their pain. They rise when someone takes it personally enough to grow, to change, to listen, to become more. Abigail wasn't trying to break him. She was challenging him. And he became greater because he listened instead of defending himself. That's emotional strength. That's what real love looks like when it demands growth. What pain have you shrugged off, laughed off, or buried deep? What moment of rejection did you pretend didn't bother you? Take it personal, not to break, but to build. Because that pain was a signal. And when you listen to the signal, you become unstoppable. Don't just move on, move forward with power, because every moment that cut you, every silence that stung, was fuel. And a man who refuses to burn with it will never light the path for anyone else. Drop a comment below. I'll turn my pain into purpose. Chapter 2. The Wounds That Shape Legends. Some men run from the wound, others rise because of it. We live in a time where the highest virtue is indifference. Don't care too much. Just move on. Be unbothered. But the truth is, indifference doesn't make you powerful. It makes you passive. Every great man you admire took something personal. He didn't just get lucky. He was hurt, betrayed, underestimated, and he let it hit him hard enough to change him. Let's look at a man whose legacy was carved in heartbreak. Theodore Roosevelt. Before he became one of the boldest US presidents, he was broken. In 1884, on the same day, his mother died of typhoid fever, and just hours later, his wife Alice died after giving birth to their daughter. He was crushed. He scribbled a dark X over the day in his journal and wrote, "The light has gone out of my life." He could have stayed there. He had every right to disappear. But instead, he took that personal tragedy and turned it into fuel. He vanished into the Dakota Badlands, rebuilt his body, restructured his soul, and returned with a fire that shaped the modern presidency. He didn't numb the pain, he let it forge him. When a man refuses to go, numb men today are trained to escape feeling. We medicate it, we distract ourselves from it, we drown it in noise, sex, screens, and surface victories. But numbness never breeds greatness. Pain does. You can't lead if you haven't bled. You can't command if you haven't first felt crushed. Because emotional power doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from choosing what to do with what broke you. Roosevelt didn't come back the same. He came back greater, because when life punched him in the chest, he punched back with purpose. She challenged the man who carried a nation. Winston Churchill led Britain through the darkest hours of World War II. But few know this. Behind the power of his voice was the voice of a woman named Clementine. Their marriage was forged in fire, with the weight of war, politics, pride, and massive personal flaws. Churchill was stubborn, emotional, and often distant. But Clementine was the only one who could reach him, because she challenged him without fear. In one letter, she wrote, "You won't get the best out of people if you are irritable or mocking. Be kind, Winston. Don't lose your temper. They need your strength, not your frustration." He didn't dismiss her. He didn't blow it off. He took it personal. And in doing so, he led better. Sometimes, the most important correction comes from the one who loves you most. And the strongest men are the ones who listen. Not with ego, but with depth. Ask yourself, what wound are you pretending doesn't exist? What relationship correction have you rejected out of pride? That conversation you shrugged off? That betrayal you buried? It's still shaping you, just without your permission. But if you face it, you take back the power. Take it personal. Let it move you. Let it matter. You're not weak because it hurt. You're weak only if you waste it. Drop a comment below. What hurt me will now build me. Chapter 3. Silence is where strength is forged. Sometimes it's not what people say. It's what they never say that carves the deepest wounds. The silence, the cold shoulder, the betrayal that was never spoken, never explained. And that kind of pain, it makes a man either bitter or better. We're trained to believe that rising means forgetting, that to grow we must move on like nothing happened. But the truth is, silence doesn't mean it didn't matter. It means you're being called to build something in the dark. The man who let the silence shape him. Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass was born into slavery. His mother was taken from him. He was taught nothing. No explanation, no justice, just silence and suffering. But that silence didn't keep him small. At 12 years old, he secretly taught himself to read. Why? Because the wife of his master let it slip that reading would ruin him as a slave. He took that moment personally and decided to ruin the chains instead. He read in secret. He wrote in secret. And when he finally escaped slavery, he didn't just free himself. He became one of the most powerful voices of freedom in the modern world. He didn't need applause. He didn't need understanding. He needed to feel the weight of injustice and use it like a sword. When no one else sees your pain, you must. And when no one else validates your worth, you still rise because you've decided you will. The love that didn't apologize and the man who became stronger. Not every great love story ends in happily ever after. Some end in silence. Some end in unanswered texts, unspoken goodbyes, or emotional distance. There's a power in a man who refuses to beg for closure, but instead builds his own. There was a time when the world knew the name Napoleon Bonaparte not just as a general, but as a man obsessed with one woman, Josephine. She cheated on him. She dismissed him early in his military career, but he never forgot how it made him feel. In fact, the heartbreak fueled him. He became stronger, sharper, more ruthless in battle. And while history has judged Napoleon many ways, no one questions this. He built an empire after he was rejected. That rejection shaped him more than acceptance ever could. He took it personal. And he rose like a storm. Emotional intelligence for the modern man. Taking it personal doesn't mean you're ruled by your feelings. It means you recognize when something matters, and instead of dismissing it, you absorb it, then decide what to do with it. Emotional intelligence isn't just staying calm. It's knowing why you feel what you feel and using it wisely. That moment you were overlooked with that job you didn't get, that woman who said she didn't feel the same, it all meant something. You don't have to obsess over it, but you do have to honor what it taught you. Your pain carries a message, your silence carries strength, and your future depends on whether you'll use both. Stop waiting for someone to explain your pain. Stop hoping for closure. You are the closure. You are the decision maker now. You don't need everyone to understand. You need to understand yourself, because a man who is clear on his pain is clear on his purpose. Drop a comment below. I found strength in what no one saw. Chapter 4. The man who carries the weight rises higher. There's a silent burden every man carries, the expectations, the responsibility, the past that shaped him, the people who doubted him, the voices that said you're not enough. The weak man runs from that weight. The wise man carries it and builds muscle from it. Because the world doesn't need another numb man, it needs a man who remembers what it cost him to become this strong, and the power of a man who doesn't forget. King David was a shepherd, the youngest of 8 brothers. When the prophet Samuel came to anoint the next king, his own father didn't even call him in the room. That moment, David could have brushed it off, could have pretended it didn't sting. But he didn't. He took it personal. And when he stood before Goliath, rejected and overlooked by his own people, he pulled strength from that moment. He said, "I've killed lions and bears. This giant will fall the same." Men who rise don't forget their pain. They remember it and fight from it. David wasn't arrogant. He was rooted. Because the man who knows what he's survived never doubts what he can conquer. The woman who left and the man who rose. There are some breakups that don't make sense. She says, "You're a good man, but I'm not ready." Or, "I need space." But what she really means is, "You weren't what I hoped you'd become." That's a wound many men never recover from. But the strong ones, they don't beg, they build. There's a story of a man who was in love with a woman for years. He gave her his best, his loyalty, his dreams. She left without warning, and that pain nearly ended him, until he got honest, not angry, honest. He asked, "What did this reveal about me? About what I need to grow into?" And instead of proving something to her, he became something for himself. His business took off, his body transformed, his presence changed, and now she watches from a distance, while he leads with quiet fire. Not because he hated her, but because he took it personal. Biblical truth: don't waste the thorn. The Apostle Paul begged God to remove his suffering, his thorn in the flesh, but God didn't remove it. Instead, he said, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Paul didn't walk away bitter, he walked away bolder, because he realized his pain was the platform for power. Modern men often pray for relief, but God doesn't always remove the thing that hurts. Sometimes he uses it to shape the man he's called you to become. Your thorn is not your punishment, it's your preparation. Don't waste it. Take it personal and take it to the throne. You're not crazy for feeling deeply. You're not weak for taking it personally. You're a man, and the world needs men who don't just survive pain, but transform through it. The betrayal, the silence, the correction, the heartbreak, it all had a purpose, and now so do you. Don't brush it off. Don't bury it. Carry it and rise with it, because the man who rises from pain becomes the man no one can stop. Drop a comment below. I carry the weight and I rise. You were never meant to live untouched, not by betrayal, not by rejection, not by pain, because men who are never touched by life never touch the world with strength. Every wound was a teacher. Every heartbreak was a blueprint. Every loss was a silent invitation to rise. You've heard the world tell you, don't take it personal, just move on, be unbothered. But today, you heard the truth. If you never take it personal, you'll never rise. This is your moment to look back, not to stay there, but to pick up the weight you left behind and carry it with honor, because the man who carries his pain with purpose becomes the man others can lean on when the storm comes, and the world is desperate for those kinds of men. Welcome to the rise. Like this video, share it with a man who's been walking wounded, subscribe for more truths they never taught you, and drop a comment below. I carry the weight and I rise.